Welcome back to Punch Drunk Nerd, the podcast where four friends, four amigos come together to talk about nerd shit. That's right, we have four people. What's a special occasion? We have Steven Escobar to talk about House of the Dragon. That's right, House of the Dragon is back. We're going to talk about the premiere. What's the name of that episode, Ed?
A Son for a Son.
A Son for a Son. A little spoiler there. But no, we're going to dive into it. I'm Luis Gonzalez, and with me is...
Miguel Sanchez.
And Ed Bull.
And...
Steven Escobar.
Hell yeah. Woo woo. Steven's read all the books of all time. So he's going to pull all of his knowledge to just kind of guide us through this experience.
Hang on. Before we get into the episode itself,
Okay,
Steven
yes.
we've been chatting a bunch these last couple of days.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I need to just I need to clear the air on something. I need to get this out there, okay?
Okay.
Steven, listen, you talk about, so you read the books. That's the big deal. Steven's read these books, okay? And I appreciate that and I respect that, okay? I'm not coming at that, okay? But in this text message thread, every time Steven refers to the audience of this show, he goes, well, the show watchers are blah, 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 blah. And I just want you to know that feels like a slur, okay?
Oh no.
I feel offended, okay? I'm sorry that I read one book, okay?
I need to check my privilege here, you're saying?
No, I appreciate it because I feel like he's really good about being like, but not you guys. I'm talking about the internet. So I'm like,
I guess I'm referring to it as more as like I don't want to criticize them. Like the visual media makes it harder to remember what's happening. It just makes it more difficult. So it's like if you just watch a show, you know a lot less, even what was on screen. That's just a really hard way to keep that in your head. Whereas when you read the book, you remember like every single line.
Yeah, they go into detail with the description of like, he came on and the red crimson belt slapped him in the face or something.
I feel like I'm barely holding on, and that's why I appreciate when Steven comes on for these episodes, because it's like you remember so many details that it's like you pointed out so many things that I'm like, oh, okay, now I can kind of like piece it all together.
Okay,
but call me show watcher one more time. No.
Watch on Juneteenth. How dare you?
All right. So the episode came out. We all watched it Sunday. And what were your thoughts? Initial thoughts? We'll go. Let's see. Who are we going to pick? Ed.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to do that.
Ed, initial thoughts.
I got to rewatch season 1 leading into.
You watched the whole season?
Wow.
Yeah, this last.
Where do you have the time to do all these things, Ed?
He's like this last Sunday before the episode.
It's been
Father's Day.
Sarah's like, please take care of your child.
Leave me alone. Father's Day.
No, it was a slow week at work. What can I say?
Your boss listens. What the hell? What are you saying? Slow.
He's like, I was watching that shit at work too.
Yeah, so I got to give it another rewatch because the first season, I feel like I kind of watched the whole thing twice as it was coming out, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And my feelings towards it are much the same, I would say. It was like a dabble back into the world of Game of Thrones, etc. I thought, this was a solid opening to a season. It doesn't have that. It still lacks that punchiness. I feel like we got in Game of Thrones and the rawness of it. It is so glossy and a little bit more singular in the storytelling, which is fine. If anything, maybe it works to its benefit to just stay focused on this storyline. But now these characters are kind of coming into their own now that we're not going to be time jumping so much, which I'm ready for. I was ready for that at the end of season 1. So yes, going forward, I'm looking forward to that. I am looking forward to how just how fucked up this conflict is going to get, which is already quite promising. I feel like the ending, which we'll get to, just like I didn't fully. It was like I was reacting the same way as what's her name, Helena. Too. It's just like I saw what was happening, but I didn't quite believe what was happening. Right. So like that, it was kind of crazy, but it played with some interesting themes and tones, which we'll get more into. But overall, like, I liked it. It's got me ready for this season. We'll get into it.
Steven, as you departed from the show watcher and now to the show reader, Steven, what did you
show
think
reader?
Yeah, he just has the subtitles on the entire time. He's like, I'm not watching.
I blocked out the top one. No.
I don't know.
Don't want to see.
Oh, that's how. Yeah. Okay. So, what did you think of coming into the season? You've read the books. You know what's happening. How did it set it up? Did it do a good job of kind of capturing that magic?
I think it did, but I am realizing that I treat George R. R. Martin and his stuff a lot like I treat Kendrick Lamar, which during the beef, it was like he can do no wrong. He's a genius. He's perfect. Everything's flawless. And then they call it like Glazers. For maybe I am. For me, it's perfect. I even season 1, every single episode, every single minute, it was just fine. And when it deviates, I don't care. I miss, like Ed was saying, being in this world so much. I miss it. When the episode opened and we heard the Winterfell theme, like I stood up out of my chair. I miss this world so much. I wish I could like delete my memory of it and read it again. Like I don't know. To me, it's exactly what I want out of fiction. So this is why I say I really have nothing to say, because I love it probably more than most, just because I'll excuse anything. Like
that's so
whatever
funny.
they do, I'll excuse.
I was talking last week about how like I'm a kind of a 5-star or a 1-star guy. Like there's really no in between, and it feels like for Game of Thrones, you know what I mean? You're like, no, it's 5 stars. I don't care. We can nitpick every day, but it's like, no, this is great.
Yeah, my IMDb is that way. I'll do like I have 10 stars and 1 stars and nothing in between. Yeah. I either loved it or I won't rate it at all.
Because why?
It's a 6. Get out of here. I either loved it or
it's actually 6.75.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Don't care. I either love it or I'm not ever talking about it.
So you loved it, Miguel. What were your thoughts in the initial?
Same. I mean, what do you want me to say? I'm super into it. I love Game of Thrones. I love this world. I'm just going to say whatever Steven says. I'm just going to say those exact same words.
Cool.
I was surprised at how much I really liked that first season of House of the Dragon. I just did not expect a Game of Thrones spinoff. I feel like I never watched Better Call Saul. I never watched Better Call Saul, but I feel, and I would like to, but I just feel like this is my version of that. Like a beloved series that had a spinoff that was also really good. You know what I mean? And so I'm just having a really great time with it. I do. Ed was kind of mentioning the time jumps from the first season. I thought they were, important for the story. I am glad that we're kind of like, and here we are, like, I can now just kind of focus in it because it's already this sprawling story that's like hundreds of years before the story that was already so fucking big. And it's like, okay, like I need to be able to focus. Like, where am I? Just tell me where to look, and I'll just do that. Yeah.
Rewatching it, leading up to it, you really feel like maybe it's the last 2 episodes that really feel like, okay, this is the story.
This is where we are.
This is where we're starting, and. Since then, it feels like, again, it's just building up that momentum now.
Yes.
And
I will say in the way that like I had to rewatch Game of Thrones, the first couple of seasons, a couple of different times before I really kind of was like, oh, I understand what's happening a little bit more.
Yeah.
I feel like this whole Dance of Dragons that's about to happen, I wish I understood the dragon aspect a little bit more, because it's like every dragon has like a character or two that's kind of attached to it. And so like everything that's going to happen, there's like subtext happening. And so I just feel like I need to watch House of Dragon, the first season, one more time at least. And then like watch this one, every episode a couple different times to kind of really like let it sink in.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying my hardest.
I understand it, but this is why like I have nothing but mercy for show watchers because it's the same for someone watching The Sopranos or The Wire or Dead. Well, I'm just saying people are like, oh, I feel like an idiot. Why? The Wire is confusing as hell. Then you rewatch it and you understand it. This is HBO. That's what they do. That's what they do well. But it's like people forget this is HBO because it has dragons. Like they forget how these stories are told. They're told very confusing. They're told very subtly. And so, of course, it's hard to watch. There's nothing wrong with it being confusing. If you feel dumb,
it makes it fun because you're like, I think I'm going to watch that again, which is something I don't do very often. Like I feel like Luis, I don't mean to go on a bunch of tangents. Sorry, no. But I feel like Luis is like I don't replay video games, and I love replaying video games. You know what I mean? Because I get a lot out of replaying them. You know what I mean? But I'm not necessarily like a film and television. There's very few TV shows that I will rewatch, maybe more so than movies. But like I just don't really do that a lot. And Game of Thrones really kind of forces me to be like, no, let's go back and revisit this because I can understand more each time.
And it does get more fun and engaging the more you lend yourself to that. Like the more you familiarize yourself with the characters, which so many people got on board with Game of Thrones, you know, as people picked up on the characters and their motivations, the places, the names, the language, kind of like everybody was having a moment with Dune Part 2 and saying like Lisan al-Kaib and all of that, you know, just like when you become familiar and comfortable with the mythology and the language, it becomes so much more fun. And like, at least for now, House of Dragon is kind of rekindling that. That's why, like, kind of opposite of what Miguel was saying, I definitely am one of those people who will rewatch things, especially things like Game of Thrones, Rings of Power, The Lord of the Rings. Like I want to immerse myself in those characters because I like being able to point to them and say like, I know who that is, you know, kind of thing. And it just like when you can immerse yourself into a show like that, rewatching it, picking up on all those subtleties and those nuances. Like I picked up on a lot more of a second, you know, however many times I've seen season 1 of House of the Dragon. It's just one of those things that you can, you know, really, I mean, you can immerse yourself as much as you like. You know, you could just do surface level and still get something out of it. You know what I mean?
That's so true. You can peel back.
What's more is they are now free to lean into these characters. So we have those, like we have Aemond, who has the eye patch. You have Laris Strong, who's got the club foot and the foot fetish, you know. Just like it's these singular character traits that we're picking up on and getting involved with, and you know what I mean. It's that's just.
I just now in this moment realized his name is Laris. Laris, is that what you just said?
Laris, yeah. Strong.
Wow. And he's like he's like the whisperer, right? And it's like Varys was the whisperer of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
They do a lot of these shows where it's like Larys and Varys and Rhaenyra and Rhaenys and repeats.
They name things, you know.
Thailand Lannister.
Well, and it's like they're talking about Aemond Targaryen, and later in Game of Thrones, like you learn the master of the maester of the Night's Watch is Aemond Targaryen, and it's like you have to quickly go. Wait, no, that's
it was
Aemond
like Bran and Bronn and Brion, like that was
The reason why this is so much fun is because that's what it's like to study history. Like it's like the history of France, Louis, and Louis. Like that's what history is. That's how it works. The name is sacred because it's a family name.
That's fun. That feels like we're getting a peek into Stephen for a second because it's like a fictional history, right?
It's like this universe exists.
You can play within the rules of history, but it's not. It's not. Okay.
I'm telling you, George is a student of history. He loves it the way a lot of us history nerds do. He really loves history. You can tell he's read so much history.
Yeah, he's able to pull from it and create structures around it.
Yeah, it is that confusing.
I loved this. I mean, I love this episode. I think it's definitely the situation where you're going in and you're re-dipping your toes into the pool. You know, we're not like diving into it. We don't have this explosive birth death scene like we did in the first pilot of House of the Dragon. We're just like, and just screaming and just pain and blood. Here, everything is just like everyone is coping and dealing and grieving, and we were seeing everybody grieve in their own different way from Rhaenyra and her kind of like self-reflective to Alicent and just kind of throwing herself into this like what's it called, like distracting things, like either whether it's getting getting it on with what's his name, Kristen
Cole,
or like focusing about her children. Everybody's grieving and trying to distract themselves or focus themselves on what's just happened. And then I think also you are going to, another part of it is, are these people on the same side? Are we unified? Like I
loved the way, the way the Greens, especially the Greens, the way they blamed each other. That's what they were doing. They were yelling at each other. It's your fault. You didn't handle it. You should have.
We just talk about that scene later, but there's that scene when Alicent's like, well, if Aemon didn't do that, right. And then her dad's like, well, if you did. And this is very natural in a high stress scenario. This is what they're doing. They're fracturing. Yeah.
And the only one doing on the blacks is Aemon.
He blamed three people. He yelled at Rhaenys. He yelled at who else? He yelled at Eric. He yelled at Lady Lysaria. He was like, "It's your fault. No, it's your fault. No, it's your fault."
Yeah, like, and she has that great line. She's like, "You're only blaming me because the people you're trying to get to aren't around or something like that."
I'm gonna use that in the future.
Yeah, he definitely got it handed to him, and he still acted out and still got, and I can't wait to see the repercussions of that. But it is interesting to see that dynamic flooding through the Green family, and I've been looking forward to getting more into meeting Aemond and Aegon, who is now.
And Aemond was a lot quieter in this episode than I expected. I expected him to be more vocal, and we got Aegon to be more loud, and I saw a color of Aegon that I haven't seen in the previous season.
Some comedic chops that is much needed in this world of very grim stuff, and it's only going to get grim. And he's also like rewatching season 1. Yeah, he's a real piece of shit.
That's why I was surprised when he was like, "Oh yeah, we'll give you your sheep back," and I was like, "Oh damn, I don't know, you were kind of like a nice guy a little bit." You know?
But it just goes deeper because he's like, he was always trying to get his father's approval, who always favored Rhaenyra, and so he was like the second born, or might as well have been. So he's overcompensating. He wants to be a good father to his son. Liked. He wants his son.
He does want to be liked.
He wants to be liked, and he wants his son to like him, and his son to be a part of what he does. Where he was left out. He was left on the sidelines. And
that moment where that kid is, you're talking about that little blonde boy, right? Like in the council scene.
Yeah,
right? I'm just trying to keep up. That's me asking genuinely. Like when that kid was kind of being like a little bratty, right?
Yeah, he needs to be raised. Kid, you raise a kid. You raise a child. You tell a child no. You deal with that. Yeah,
but there's also that grown adult that's kind of like, stop doing that.
That's a Lannister. Yeah.
Please stop doing that.
That's a Lannister.
And then he's like, is he bothering you? I legitimately was like,
is the heir of the throne bothering you? That's what he said.
Yeah. I was like, oh shit, you fucked up. And then I loved how Alicent was like, kind of whatever. What am I trying to say? She kind of chewed him off a little bit.
She yelled at Tylan though. She was like, if Tylan wouldn't create a sex, like, God,
he's done fucking up.
Yeah,
bitch. You know what I mean? I was like, oh shit.
They're like,
she knows Aegon needs that validation.
True.
Yeah.
That's
and unless like he starts, because she talks to Otto about it later, is that she needs Aegon and Aemon to mind her just as much as Otto and all of that.
Otto doesn't. I feel like Otto doesn't. It's just like, sure, honey, but this is what's going to happen. That's the attitude I get from Otto.
Very misogynistic.
That's going to be. He's obviously pushing Aegon away from him too, by constantly hovering over him.
Oh,
and
I love that
him.
scene. Yeah, exactly. Where he keeps coming up and going down, and then let's start with the beginning of the episode here, and then we can work our way through. We start off at Winterfell, and we basically start on the Raven's journey, going through this lush land, and this is the Raven that's going to tell the news of what's to come.
Yeah,
that's the first thing you see. We're following this Raven. Happy times, happy lands. And then as it's traveling to send its devious and terrible and horrible message, we cut to Stark speaking about the duty over blood and honor, and the honor in that duty, and all these things in Winterfell, and the honor and the White Wall and all this stuff. and Jacaerys, right? Is that his name? Yes.
The baby. The Jacaerys is the baby.
Who's
Jace? Oh,
Jace.
right. You're right. I didn't put that together until right now. Actually, you're right. Yeah, they both have the same name. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Jace and the baby have the same name.
He got a blow up this season.
He did. He was a man. He was like a handsome young man.
He's not hunched anymore.
I was like, whoa, is this the same guy?
Yeah,
it's been like a week.
Yeah, right.
No, I did say how long. How long has this been going on? You know,
a few days. Can I just say of that moment? I did think that the voiceover dialogue was a little ham-fisted. It was so. This is my impression of a
Jon Snow.
Yeah, I'm just like,
it sounded like
this
Jon
is what
Snow.
all Northerners sound like.
Yeah,
and this is just like a really dreary monologue, but it's kind of beautiful.
It's like every single writer.
Ed British.
Every single writer that has ever existed has always struggled with like an opening line. Yeah, and sometimes you notice, and that was not like that. I was like, okay, so
I was just like, this is not how you're like any of these characters talk to each other normally in the show. So like, skip the pretense and just like we'll catch up, but. All of this bullshit.
Especially because I'm coming in.
You're in Winterfell, and yes, you're keeping the North out. Fuck off. Anyway, quick run. I do have some like nitpicks throughout this episode. So
fair.
Nitpick away as we go through. Especially because that was not. We were expecting to see the consequences of that death, and we're jumping in. It's like, whoa! Now we're having to like slow down. I know it's been years since we've seen that last episode, but I expected to rush in, and here we are, just kind of like. Ramping back up, and then we find out he offers the Greybeards. Is that what you're talking about, Stephen?
Yes, this is so. I feel like if I emphasize anything, you'll think it's a spoiler, but it's not a spoiler because you don't know what's going to happen. But just here's the Greybeards. They don't go away. It's not some small thing. This is like a marine force that he's giving the blast. He's like, hey, take these guys. They're the best, and they are. They don't just disappear in like the next episode. No, they keep your eye on them because they're important to the story. Yeah, the Greybeards.
Or so we
like
hope
2000
in the show, right?
Yeah, right. Totally. But the Greybeards.
In the books. But yeah.
But they get word of his brother's death, and then we look at Jake and his face, and it's kind of left unsaid. Of a thing that
I like that they said Kragan tells him that the dragons don't cross the wall, which I like because they're like gonna go against Game of Thrones, like Daenerys. No, you can't. The writers, I think, did that because they didn't know how else to get the White Walkers across the wall, so they sent a dragon across the wall. They're gonna violate lore in order to do that. And the House of Dragons were like, no, we're going back to original. Dragons can't cross the wall. There's literally magic. There's a magic spell.
We're gonna violate lore?
I didn't realize.
We're violating lore. No.
Yeah, not anymore. We're going back and saying.
I was going to say it's like because it's too high. Why?
No, it was built with magic. Yeah, it was
magic.
A spell.
Ed.
That's why they needed the dragon to break the wall, and they can't just like cross. They literally can't cross. They would like fall apart. So they needed to like break the spell, and then they could cross.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know what George is going to do about that. Obviously, hasn't written yet. Yeah.
I don't think he's doing much of
I have a question for Steven here. There was a way that I caught them holding their swords. I don't know if everybody knew, and I'm sure they do this in the Game of Thrones too. But the people covering at the wall, they hold their swords like straight up, like this.
Oh, interesting.
And then everyone else, like Jacaerys, and even at the people like King's Landing, they have it at their hilt here. And so I just didn't know what there was the significance of that, or if that flagged anything to you.
I assume it's because they're like supposed to be like Scotsmen and stuff, and they've got claymore. You know, their weapon is a two-handed sword as opposed to one you can wear in your hilt. They've got a two-handed sword, so it has to be like, I don't know if you guys saw Ice. Kragan's carrying Ice. It was sticking out. He's walking behind it. That's Ned's sword. You know, it gets melted down by Tywin after he gets killed, and it turned into two swords. Brienne is carrying half of that. That's it right there. The big old Ice that's sticking out. It's been in the Stark family forever, and so I see things like that. I'm like, yeah, Ice.
Oh, fuck. Okay. Yeah. Like, I didn't see any of that. That makes me want to go back because God damn it. All right.
I loved it. To me, that's what I think is happening because they're monster claymores. They're two-handed swords, whereas everyone else uses the one-handed sword.
We get to Dragonstone, and that's where we get that beautiful shot of the dragon arriving. What's it? Rhaenys?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love that scene.
Rhaenys is on Mealy's, the dragon or something. And then this is where we had the confrontation between Damon and her. He's like, "We're getting out there." And he's like, "No."
He said, "Get back on there." You know?
Yeah, it's like, "I would if you were king," or something like that.
Oh, that was so. Would that you were king?
Yeah,
so good. So the visuals itself were amazing. I feel like we talked about this in the chat, but it was like that was a really phenomenal shot that showed scope. You know what I mean? Like that big ass dragon kneels down.
Chamber. Yeah,
guys, there's something about that empty space that makes. I felt that so few times, right? I feel that when I play God of War 2018, and I know Luis played that game, okay? Yeah. But like when they go through the tunnel where they end up meeting the dragon at the very top. They take the elevator.
Oh, yeah.
Dragon. It's the same thing. It's like this is a cavern of a room, you know what I mean? And this big ass dragon is there, and it's just like visually, my jaw dropped. I was just
Me too. I love the visuals of that thing.
Oh my god, like I am in this bitch. But no, the dialogue is especially being this whole like, I mean, I would listen to you if you were king. You know what I mean? It's just like you're not him. That's what the kids say.
Yeah.
All right, you're not him. All right,
you have no crown. Yeah.
No.
King this is the moment where we see Damon confronting
Prince Philip.
Yeah.
Confronting her, being also, like, "If you burned them down, like he's tossing the blame." Yeah.
But that's like the second time he's made that argument. And the interesting thing about Damon is he does present himself as a bit of a badass, but like whenever he does come to head to head with just reason, he's always kind of put in his place. It was the same thing with Rhaenyra in the previous season. And here, repeatedly, we've already mentioned he's right now he's the kid at home twiddling his thumbs, waiting for mummy to tell him he can go to war, and we see the consequences of that earnestness. But like repeatedly, he kind of falters whenever he is.
Yeah,
I love that about him. Yeah, it just makes for an interesting because like everybody wants to say, and we have seen him be a badass, but it is that interesting juxtaposition from the battlefield to behind closed doors where he just wants to slam his fist like all the men in Westeros and let's go to war.
It's such an opposite of what you would initially think of him from like the first ever episode where it's like, oh, this guy's going to be a problem, he's not going to listen. No, he's going to listen, and he's not going to be a problem. He just throws a fit all the time, but he does listen. And he does obey. He really does. He's just angry all the time.
He's angry all the time, vengeful, and
he obeys. A Targaryen. You know what I mean? He's got that Targaryen blood. I mean, we don't see it that way because for other King Viserys, right? That was the old
his brother.
His brother. He was so kind and he was so kind of malleable, and so you kind of get inundated with his kindness and be like, oh, he's a kind Targaryen. But really, it seems like a lot of Targaryens are this like.
Yeah,
egotistical, war-powered, like
fire in them.
Yeah, they've got a fire in them.
They've been lords of the land for too long,
right? There's too much power.
Exactly. They've had this godlike power because of the dragons, but we're about to find out why that ain't a good thing.
Yeah, the only one that can stand up against you is another dragon, and what happens when they fight? Gods fight, and the whole land shakes.
Oh yeah, he's like, our two dragons could take on Vhagar. It's like
that hoary old bitch.
I do like that. Like throughout this episode, there is that hesitance to like all the younger people do want to use the dragons, but they're like you get the feeling that a lot of these characters know that once
if you
lose that, like it's done and it's
over.
There's no controlling it because as we saw, like that brutal ending of season 1 where Vhagar just swallowed up whatever that dragon was called in a bite, like in an instant. And
it's like he thought he was safe. He thought he was on a dragon. You know what I mean?
And that dragon is supposed to be bigger than Drogon, which was the bigger dragon of Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
like the scales of which this whole war rests on, like these creatures, is just kind of crazy. Like, yes, maybe they do have more dragons, but they do have Vhagar, who, as we just saw, could just eat one,
kind of doing his own thing.
just like easily. But the smaller ones are going to be faster and all of that, yada yada. It's just like so much could go wrong, and it's terrifying. And I think that they do a good job of not, like, you could very easily indulge in just like dragon fare here, dragon fare there. Like, let's indulge, like, give them the audience what they want. No, you need to hold back on that, and that's when moments like that at the end of season 1 really pay off. And I think right now, anyway, that they're doing that really well.
I think I like that where we're dealing with 2 different generations, and that was the benefit of having us jumping through time in the first season. Was as we got to see them grow up and deal with life, then we have these kids who come in knowing nothing of the previous life, and they're just like, oh yeah, let's just use the dragons all the time, and they don't like, no, well, you see, we can't, and they're just like, well, fuck them, and like, well, no, they're
I was young ones
close.
too.
Yeah, and we can't really mess with them or it'll cause trouble, and they're like, well, who gives a fuck? Burn everything, burn the blockade. And so having those 2 kind of combat is really always enjoyable in this series. We fly in on Rhaenyra grieving. We fly in like a dragon, scooping in, flying into this thing. First thing we hear is the dragon crying out, mourning the loss of also, I think that's their son too.
Yes, Syrax, who Rhaenyra rides, is the mother of Arax, who Luke rides. So they're both mourning their sons. It's both 2 mothers mourning 2 sons.
Exactly. Yeah. So you hear the dragon cry out, and then we see her standing and staring. I actually didn't know what she was staring at when she got there. What building was she?
Like wings.
Well, I think initially she's searching for him. She just wants to think like, I gotta find him. He's floating out there, and she's looking for his body. Really, like she's looking for something to bury.
The fisherman pulled the dragon wing ashore.
That happens later, but at the very beginning, she's staring at like this tower, and it was that tower that I was
Storm's End.
That's got to be Storm's End. Yeah,
that's where that all took place over.
Baratheons, and then
she's assuming that the debris or some sort of sign.
Right. I think she's just planning on where to search. She's going to go search.
Okay, cool.
Or hoping to find something.
Or hoping.
Do you guys remember when that Malaysia flight went down? And
when Russia shot down a plane. Yeah. And pretended they did it. Yeah, I do.
We meet up.
Couldn't find that either.
We find out not even a wing. We meet Corlys, right? Valerian, and they're cleaning up.
Someone else is there. Someone else in that scene who you are now meeting and will meet again. Alan of Hull.
Alan, that's right.
His
good old
name
Alan.
is
not from Barbie, but from this situation.
I'm just Alan.
Yeah, just Alan. They're cleaning up
that's Oaken Fist. Keep your eye on him.
Okay, what's his name?
Alan. There's Alan. He has a brother, Adam. They're going to both be here, Alan and Adam. It's also really important. A lot of the book readers are pointing out, it's interesting that he shaved his head. He has no hair. I wonder what his hair color could be. I wonder why he doesn't have any hair. They specifically
but he was treating Alan like some sort of nobody.
Yeah, he was.
Whoa.
Yeah, that'll come out. I mean, I could tell you it's a spoiler. I'm not going to do it, but he's coming back. He's coming back.
Interesting, because there was a line where he's like, "If you don't mind, sir, I'm going to continue on with my duty." And I was like, "That's very interesting that you said it that way."
I agree. I loved their conversation. It's loaded with subtext that only makes sense when this is over. We watch and go, "Oh my gosh, they both know. They're not saying." Yeah.
They find the sword that Luke had, gave it to him.
No, these are dragon spurs. I was stunned in the Reddit. These are in the book. There's saddles and dragon spurs. There's it's like a horse. I was stunned that even in the book readers read it. They were like, what was that? And I said, I know something that the other book readers don't know. That's the first time that's ever happened.
These are dragon spurs that he had.
Yeah, and he found his spurs. And I love that Corlys clearly loves his grandson, even though they're not blood related and he's no idiot. Still, he loves him like an adopted grandson. Yeah. That was so sweet to me. The Sea Snake is a good guy. We go
to King's Landing. Vagar arrives. We see that, and then we go to Aegon's the bedroom of the kids, where Aegon's looking for his son, and even he mistakens who his son is, tapping the child, thinking that was his son, and no, it's his daughter.
That's a good point. I did that.
And then he's
I didn't catch that. That's good.
He's like, "Where's my boy?" He's like, "That's not him." Where is him? And this is the initial the conversation of rats start to come up here.
And now everyone's finally listening to her. Like when she said all that stuff in the beginning, everyone's like, whatever. And I don't just mean people. I mean people watching the show. People watching the show are finally like, huh? What's she saying? Let's pay attention because her other prophecies have come true.
What I do love about, specifically, I guess the Targaryens is that kind of that lingering thought that throughout their heritage and throughout their dynasty, there has been madness sown throughout their ranks, and like we'll see it later, obviously, in the history of Game of Thrones. But also, it'd be cool, like, and I'm just speculating here from this episode, but like we're going to start seeing some of that madness sink into maybe Helena after this experience. And Louise,
question about this madness. Now that I'm thinking about it. Ed, you shared this Reddit post about the intro, breaking that down, and how one of the first images was how the Valyrians imbued themselves with like magic to tie themselves with the dragons or something like that. So my question is, chicken before the egg or egg before the chicken? Are the Targaryens and Valyrians mad because they tied themselves to the dragons, or were they always mad? And then
I think it's because of the incest.
I think it's the cultivation of the incest, and
I think it's too much incest.
Well, no, they love each other, Ed. Okay, let's not get past that.
Love Ed.
The hard ones with the hard ones.
I don't doubt it. I mean, look at Rhaenyra and Damon. I mean, what a wonderful couple.
Yeah, the post.
I think the dragon,
I thought they were lovers. Oh, buddy.
The dragon element only just adds to that arrogance and that self-righteous godlike attitude. So it's like, we are Targaryens. That's why we have to keep it pure, is because we are the dragon and all of that.
That ego sets in over generations. Exactly, I am a god. I truly am special.
All the while, it's taking its toll. Like, so yeah. Anyway, that was just something that I was starting to pick up on, and I'm looking forward to see how that plays into it, if at all. I don't know. Maybe they'll, because like in Game of Thrones, it was just like, oh, by the way, forgot to mention this. What's her name? What's the queen in Game of Thrones? Daenerys. It's like, oh, by the way, Daenerys is crazy. She always has been.
I've shown that.
Yeah. So anyway,
there's a line I'd like to read to you just from the book here.
Oh God.
It's the last line of the chapter after blood and cheese happens, everything, but it says,
a good cheese.
Aegon and his wife slept separately thereafter, and Queen Helena sank deeper and deeper into madness, while the king raged and drank and raged. So good call, Ed. Yeah, that's a smart catch. Spoilers.
I love that he raged and drank
and raged. Writing. George.
Wow.
He's prose master.
I haven't actually heard his writing. You shared one of his like a passage or like just a quote from him, and it was so lyrical, a lot more lyrical than I thought his.
Yeah, that was a passage I shared. That's why I figured it'd be okay to read it.
And that's like, oh, maybe I do want to like lock in here, because I didn't I thought it would be a lot more colder, not as like poetic.
It's very poetic. That's why, like Ed pointed out when I was here last from the House of Dragon review last time, where Ed was like, the dialogue feels flat. It's like, right, because George R. R. Martin's a poet, so without his dialogue, we don't get beautiful poetry like that. He's the one who writes all those great lines, like the mind needs a book, like a sword needs a whetstone. That's George. He's a poet. So without him, it's very flat and dry. I mean, he is just special that way. Not just plot, but prose.
Show us the book one more time.
Is it going to be backwards? It looks backwards.
No, it's not backwards. Yeah.
Fire
and blood.
And that's what book is that in the series, Steven? Just like give us a really quick overview.
It'll be like the first book. It's a prequel. So like
it's a prequel before Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it's a story of all the Targaryens. It's like
this motherfucker won't finish a book, but he'll write a pre-book.
Yeah. Oh yeah. God bless him. See, that's why I say I'm a huge Glazer stan. Like you can do whatever the hell you want.
We're not going to talk shit about it.
He can do whatever the hell he wants. He can retire right now, and I'd still.
You know what? I'm going to start a whole nother universe before I finish the other Game of Thrones book.
Sold. He can do whatever he wants.
He's like, I'm working on the video game, and you're like, that's not even your medium.
Every book is a gift, and we're mad because we didn't get more gifts on Christmas. It's like, chill out, you spoiled babies. It's a gift. Yeah. Everything he gives us is a gift.
Another person who got a gift was Alicent, who was getting head in her bedroom.
She was
having a good time.
Good for her. God bless her.
She needed it.
She was getting glazed.
We're talking about glazers. Anybody needed to get laid from season 1.
Yeah,
poor Alicent.
She's never.
Yeah, I mean, genuinely, sexual history has got to have sucked.
Yeah, exactly.
No pun intended. But that was one thing that you could always feel for her, is like she was in just kind of like an awful situation from a very young age. So
controlled by men her whole life.
Yeah, absolutely. Old man.
I kind of feel for her a little bit. I don't know. I feel
like
they do a good job.
It is very cut and dry now, but like when you reflect back on just like everything she did endure by herself and still enduring her father's disrespect, basically, and then the disrespect of her children after she has literally just put her and their lives on the line to take this moment. And fuck it, she's going to enjoy it a little bit, right? Like
the big question this season. Sorry, go ahead, Stephen. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just one of my favorite lines was when Rhaenys was a prisoner in King's Landing at the end of season 1, and Alicent confronts her. It's like, give us your answer, ring the bell when you have an answer. And Rhaenys is like, you don't want to be free, you don't want to be independent, you just want to make a window in your cell. Like that's what it is to me. It's like, right, you don't want to be free, you just want to have like a little bit of fun time in the meantime. You just want to make the best of a bad situation. She's like, I'm going with Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra's just going to break walls down to get free.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Alicent just wants a little bit.
The big question this season, right, is like the whole marketing is, are you team green or team black? And it's like, I'm team black all the way.
It's like everyone.
Until I think about Alicent, and then I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm kind of, I get you a little bit.
I agree. I mean? I think it's why they frame it as Rhaenyra versus Alicent and not Rhaenyra versus Aegon, because they knew that no one would be with Aegon. So they had to show Alicent. So like, all right. Yeah. I think that's why they frame it that way. When in the books, it's very obviously framed as
they
Rhaenyra
have that like Civil War poster where it's like
the two of them facing each other. Yeah.
Facing each other. You know what I mean? Like, they're like giving them dirty looks. We enter the council room. Oh wait, there's a moment, sorry, where Alicent's like, we can't do this again, and Kristoff's like, sure. And
before you go on, and then I love the shot. Then she takes the white cloak and puts it on his back. That is a vow of celibacy. Like, it's such a hypocritical moment. She has to like look at this. It's like putting a priest collar on after you blow it. Like it's like, oh no.
I think he asked for it too. He's like, I need help. Can you help me? Yeah.
It's like, you're damn right you do, because you can't do it on your own. You're clearly not a.
I love that detail that you shared with us in the chat. It was just like, I didn't even think about that. It's just something that you just like, oh, she's just helping him put it on clothes. And you forget all this context and subject.
There's a vow there. It.
Yeah. We've talked about the council room earlier in this episode about all these like blaming. But the first thing I want to bring up before we dive into it is this is the first time we see the rat catcher. He's in here.
Yes. I didn't even know to catch that. I was like, I rewatched it and I'm like, oh my God, there he is.
There he is. And he's like, and then he is hanging the rats out and about. I'm like, that's kind of weird. Why don't you just stuff them in somewhere? Why you have them hanging? But I think there's some sort of visual like language happening there.
The rats.
But it's the first, the rats.
And they're also showing you how close he can get to the royal family, like how close he can get in.
Yes. That was very informative too.
And they don't even see him. Yeah.
It's like, that is an important, like, what do they call it? The inner circle or whatever? Like
the small council,
the small council, right? Even Aemon, when he came in, they're like, "What the fuck is this guy doing here?"
Good point.
You know, it's like, if Aemon can't even get here, and then the fucking rat catcher's here, it's like, you really can get anywhere because these rats are a problem. So they're just like, "Oh yeah, just come in."
They're peasants; they don't know any better.
Well, but also they're allowed to be. I've been like, I like watching reactions of Game of Thrones, like on YouTube and stuff. So because you see what people get, it's like taking a poll. But they were like, some people are like, how can he do this? How can he move so freely? And it's like, this is the equivalent to a janitor. It's like a janitor in the White House.
Yeah, right.
Of course he can get in the Oval Office. Someone's got to clean it. Are you going to clean it?
The most ignored person in the building. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. He can get everywhere you can get. Right? He's got clearance.
And it's something that I missed until I saw it a second time. I was like, this motherfucker's been there the whole time. So, and then we get into this whole conversation, which we've already kind of talked about. What happens in the council room? Everybody's blaming everybody. I don't know if there's anything else that we wanted to talk about this room. I did notice Allison was saying something to her son, like, you got to do this. And then he told her off. And Christoph or Crystal saw that she was like
Kristen Cole.
Kristen Cole. Thank you. I keep not saying
Christmas Carol.
Christmas Carol.
Christopherson.
He knows that Chris Christopherson noticed her, and he kind of in his own way defended.
Oh, right. Yeah, they did a little eye thing, and I need your help to redirect his attention. Yeah, you're great. Yeah. Right.
It's a lot of
you're
like,
right. That's a good point.
A lot of like sharing information. He's sending it for her. And then because of all that, you know that her dad, his name is
Otto,
notices their relationship.
Who he's quizzing us, obviously. He knew.
I didn't notice that.
He's
Good
like,
catch.
what's going on with you two? You know what I mean?
I didn't catch that.
Otto's
good catch.
Well, you know what, Steven? I wasn't ready to catch until you were like, Otto is my favorite like actor. He's my favorite character.
I think he's my favorite.
So
actor.
when you said that, I was like, okay, I gotta lock into this guy and see everything that he's doing.
He's devious.
And I was like, every edit and every direction is purposeful. And so when I was locked in on him, I saw him like, what the fuck are you two doing? You know, and so I was like, oh, I think he's smart and he knows what's going on. So
he's the only one of Team Green that scares me. If I was Team Black, I'd be like, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to you. Yeah. Otto is the only one that scares me. He's the only one that is smart enough to figure out what I'm going to do before I do it.
He is like, but he is putting himself in a corner by trying to harness every single one of these very disruptive people, and you can just see his exasperation growing. Just like everything that Aegon says, he's just like, fucking Christ.
It felt so mean. It's like, this is like we were saying, this is a child. If you don't like how he's turned out, why didn't you do a better job? Like, same with Joffrey. It's like, why didn't you do it then when you had a chance to fix him?
He's kind of like,
you're like mad at him.
He's like their Tywin, you know what I mean?
He's definitely their Tywin, yeah. But I felt that way with Tywin and Joffrey. Tywin's like, this is horrible. It's like, dude, you could have like brought him with you and raised him to be a man. You didn't. Now you're mad at everyone else. Yeah. Like, kids grow up how we let them. If you don't raise them, they grow up like animals. So now you're mad that you didn't do your job. Like, I know it's not Otto's kid, but like you did a bad job and you're mad that the kid is a kid. Like, whose fault is this?
We roll into seeing Littlefoot, Clubfoot. What's his name?
Larys, Clubfoot.
Yeah. Larys Strong. Yeah.
He knows.
Every time I see him, I get mad for Harwin all over again.
Oh. Yeah.
Harwin, we hardly knew ye. I wanted to have a whole season with him.
I knew him so little that there was a point where I was like, wait a second.
My favorites.
Who is the father of Jake and Luke again? Like,
exactly. I
had a moment where I forgot, and I was like, wait a second, who was that guy?
I was so bummed. I thought he was going to be around for a season. That's why I didn't even like mention him. I thought he was going to be around.
But he knows what's up. He knows that Allison and Christoph Cole.
Yeah. Screw this guy. I don't give a shit about his name. I'm not trying to get his name right. I'm not trying to give this man any respect.
He knows about Alice and Christmas hooking up, and he's disposed to some traitors. I don't know what that means, Steven, that he's gotten rid of people.
I took it as he's planted his own stuff.
Yes, that's what I took it as too.
He's lost his hold on the queen.
He's lying.
Now that she's depending on Kristen more. Because he had her in this weird arrangement where he would jack off to her feet, and
he even mentions, he's like, "Oh, where were you?" or something like that. Yeah, he like mentions that. That was our
just
thing.
like I came to. I
just reminded in this moment.
Yeah,
I tried to meet you before the council meeting, but you were indisposed or whatever.
Well, you were,
but yeah, I took that very much as he's planting his own seeds there.
That's what I took it as.
And
don't say plant seeds. Okay.
All over the place, he's planting seeds.
Put those seeds away.
And then the very next scene, we see these new handmaids who are, giving her a bath, and she looks uncomfortable.
Gotta get clean.
Yeah,
but you know what it is? I think because I thought
it's all the rats.
Why are we cutting to Rhaenyra right after this bath scene? And as they're washing her, I don't know if this is true. I'm just kind of guessing, and I'm hoping you guys can tell me. They're washing her left hand, and then Olivia Cook is looking at her hand and then her forearm. And before she gets to the forearm, she gets a little bit upset and she's like, stop, I'll wash myself. Now, in the previous season, didn't she cut her forearm when she was having a confrontation?
Shit.
When she was trying to kill Luke herself?
Oh, no. Yeah. She cut Rhaenyra's arm.
And then did she not cut herself a little bit during that time?
I don't think she cut herself.
Google
she
search.
used to
Maybe,
pick at her nails. She used to pick at her nails and like.
Yeah, I think it's another tick.
Nails.
She's got these ticks. That her skin. She's like trying to rip her skin off.
I thought you were about to say something about grayscale. You know what I mean? I was no way.
But with that said, also Viserys, when he was like falling apart, Alicent Alicent was the one who was bathing him and had the gentler touch. So I wonder if that has something to do with that. Like she's become less reliant on her handmaids because
I like it.
Everybody
she just wants to be.
She wants to
By
be
the
alone.
way,
She wants the gentle touch, which nobody can offer her but herself. I guess maybe that's what that's displaying. She can't trust anybody,
right?
In her own.
This is what I love about it, and all HBO great shows is the debate. It's not the answer; it's the fact that it's trying to figure it out that I love. That's the part that makes me happy is being like, what could this mean? And having many answers. That's to me the side of a good writer.
Right. It allows a lot of angles and a lot of interpretation instead of being like, you can only see it this one way. It's like, actually, you can see it all these different ways.
Let me spoon feed it to you.
Right. We then cut to as she's pondering and thinking in the bath. We cut again to Rhaenyra, where we fly in like we did in that first scene, and with the dragon crying, and that's where we find the dragon wing. So we establish that she's looking for him, and then the second scene, we finally found what she's looking for.
And they had like fingers. I don't know why I never thought of that. The dragon wing was like a literal like a hand. I don't know why I never thought of that.
Right? Like
a thumb. I don't know why I never thought of that. I don't know why I never ever thought about them having fingers at the end.
Now these people who find the wing, they're not with her. They're just random sea people, right?
Yeah. They're just fishermen.
They're just fishermen. So she flies in like, back off, bro.
See, that's interesting. I didn't even think I've heard a lot of people say that. I just thought she just was like, oh, that's like, again, this arrogance or this, like, I don't see small folk. You can stay if you want, but I'm coming like
1000%. I totally see that too. She's just like, I'm just doing my task and you are like pointless.
You can stay if you want, but I don't see you or care. Yeah, that's how I just did it. She's like,
but she's also a mother. Is that what we're talking about? This like dragon.
Well, also that.
So the dragon is comforting and roaring and crying as she's also crying. So both of them together are mourning, seeing the wing of her child and then the clothing of her child. So they're both seeing evidence of.
I was so scared there was going to be like half a skull or something in there. I was so afraid.
They would put that shit in there.
And they would, exactly. I was so afraid I was going to see half of a child.
It would be, well, I was just like, there's no fucking way, right? Like that would...
He ate him. Right,
yeah. Well, just like, and by then the sea would have...
good point.
Taken care of the rest.
Right.
I think,
again, that Malaysian flight we've never found.
There might be a dragon wing on that flight.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
Still no words from Rhaenyra. Then we move on to Aegon here in the court. A little comedic scene. The magnanimous Aegon. And this is the whole little back and forth where he's like, I'll send you your sheep. And then Otto's like, no, you won't. And he's like, oh, never mind. No, I won't.
I love that because that's kind of a theme you've seen with like these young kings, right? Where they want to be in power. They want to just be like, I'm the boss and I'll tell you what to do. And then there's really someone else that's like, no, you won't.
Absolutely.
But I love later in the scene, he's like, well, we rely on them for all of our support. So I will definitely pay them handsomely. And then Otto does that, like he goes up and then he goes.
Oh, that little like walk and turn away. Like I'm not even going to fucking.
Yeah.
And I think like Aegon was like looking when he's like looking to the side, like trying to look around to Otto, like it's like a metaphor, like trying to retain power, but really Otto is like forcing the king to move away. He's so powerful. The king himself is looking around him.
Also, I'm going to say this again. I think we saw finally see the Iron Throne again for the first time for the season. And I'm reminded by the fact when they were like, there's going to be 1 billion more swords this time for the throne. And I was like,
damn, they were like,
I'm ready to see it. And then when they finally showed it, I was like, oh, they just put like extra swords on the side. in my mind, I'm still a little bit like upset about the fact that the seat isn't like gargantuous.
It's supposed to be a tower.
Also,
it's supposed to be a tower.
Is like,
not like let's add a couple swords to the left and the right.
In Game of Thrones, the beginning of Game of Thrones, Baratheon is like, I was in love with this girl, and I can't even remember her face because they don't have the internet. They don't have the pictures.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So someone is like, there were thousands of swords on the throne, and it's really just like, it's like 25.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, it was just gossip and legends. Yeah, that's a good point.
It's legend. You know what I mean?
I like that. This is what it's supposed to look like if it was like accurate to the book. It's supposed to be a tower.
Zoom.
Yeah, I see it. Like, I want it to be.
Oh, that's as far as I can zoom. But this is what it's supposed to look like on the book.
Move it to your mountain.
It's described as like a mountain.
Move it to your left.
Move it to my left.
A little bit to your right. Boom. Yeah. Look at that. Like, that's what I want. I want it to be like overwhelming when they were selling it in the marketing.
Like you sit in that chair and you kind of like scratch yourself with it, right?
As they all do. Yeah, they all like.
You gotta take a tetanus shot. Look at that thing. Yeah,
I think you're right. I mean, obviously, it does look a little absurd, and I think
but
if they did try to portray that on TV, it would,
But how cool would it be? A tiny figure in a big ass like.
I think if this was like a more visually stylistic show, they could get away with that. You know what I mean?
Like an anime.
You need to lean more into the fantasy concept of it. Obviously, it deals with fantasy, but I mean, visually speaking, we're still on a TV level. It gets all hokey the more
and put on the producer hat on. It's like, well, we couldn't do that. Okay,
we can't do all of that.
I'm talking about budget, but to what Miguel was saying, I mean, it does play into that. Like, yes, this is a romanticized kind of era where it's all about legends and heroes.
Fair.
And I can't remember the character who said it, but
Rihanna.
No, in Game of Thrones there was a character who commented on how ugly they thought the Iron Throne was. I can't remember who it was, but like it is a subject of conversation in that realm too. It's just like it's just like a bunch of melted swords, and I think one character says I thought it was bigger or something like that.
Even by the time you read Game of Thrones, like every other realm, it had like a throne, and you're like, oh, that's kind of nicer than, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
yeah, for sure. And you wonder if
like this one's made of roses. You're like, oh, this is nice.
You wonder if, and then when the Targaryens fall. You wonder how much they changed. I mean, you wonder if they were just like this, because the point of the throne is meant to be an insult to Westeros. It's like, this is all of you versus my dragons. This is how important Targaryens are. Even 1,000 of y'all can't stand up to me. Like I could conquer every single one of you. So it's like meant to be an insult. That's what you're supposed to see when you watch up, is like, this is the entirety of Westeros couldn't stand up to me. You wonder if they changed it because they're like, these Targaryens are done. I don't know.
They wiped it away.
We wiped it away. We're just like, what now?
Clubfoot also wants to wipe away the hand of Otto as the father, as the hand. What?
No. Brilliant. Go ahead.
Clubfoot is saying, listen, Aegon, you're the king. You got to be a little different than your dad. Your dad had Otto as his hand. Moment. Maybe you should get someone else. You want to be like your dad.
Who do I know that's good?
Yeah, you know what's interesting is in the show, I have nothing against Peter Baelish or the way it's represented or anything, but in the show, it's just a little. Littlefinger is different than he is in the book. He does the same thing, but he isn't a mustache twirling tee hee ha ha. He's not. He's very friendly and very kind, and people trust him and like him because he's very friendly and makes jokes, and he's self-deprecating and all this stuff. So his evil is hidden, and I feel like they're kind of trying to halfway that with Larys, where they're trying to make him be a little more. No, I know.
He's got so much that sort of like,
I know.
Every time he walks in,
but when he talks to the king, he isn't going, "Oh, my king." Yeah. He's not Jafar. He's not acting like Jafar. He's acting like he's like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. He's like pretending like he's soft and sweet. This is just for your benefit. To me, that's a little more of how I saw Littlefinger than the way he was portrayed. But again, I'm not saying that the actor did a bad job, or just in the book.
Also, a director can direct him to
right.
So it could be a thing.
Right. That's clearly what they wanted, and it's fine. And I'm not complaining. I'm just saying.
I was gonna say like they really are like shoehorning in like Game of Thrones archetype characters from the show. Okay, I'm talking from a show watcher perspective.
Yeah,
you know, like they were like, oh, he's the Littlefoot of the show, or Littlefoot. I'm sorry, Littlefinger. All right, not the dinosaur.
I picked up this term from Reddit. I didn't think that I was using some slur. I didn't think that I was insulting. This is how it's described on Reddit. Book watchers.
But I just see that the HBO being like, we're gonna make. You guys remember Littlefinger, right? Let's make a character that's just like him. You know?
Yeah, like the templates are there.
Exactly.
Just like Otto is like Tywin and
which again is just true in history.
It's just welcome and that's always exactly.
True. It's the same.
Exactly. They're just trying to live up to their counterparts, right?
Yeah. It's that's how history works. It's the same. But okay, what's the next scene, Louis?
Yeah, Otto and this is a scene between Allison and her father, and basically she's like, "You gotta stop undermining my voice," and he's like, "Sure, I will."
Well, like, whatever, bitch.
Well, see, like y'all say whatever, bitch, but he said something that I thought I have never heard anyone use this sentence outside of honesty. It's usually, to me, it's a sign that someone is being like, if I'm having a debate with someone about anything serious and they say this sentence, I go, well, at least I know you're listening. But he said, I had never thought about it from that way. He said, I never saw it from that angle, which he didn't have to say, even if that was true. And it felt like he keeps deferring to her, almost like he looks at her like a son, or like he does. I think he does want her to lead. He does want her to be strong. He wants her. The way Tywin treated Cersei is completely different than the way Otto is treating Allison. Yeah. Otto's moving Allison around the board, but he's talking to her. He's listening to her. He's educating her. Tywin was just like, you need to shut up and obey. Like, he didn't want to hear a thing.
Admitting, some fault of his own.
Some fault of his own. And I've never heard anyone say that without being genuine. And so when I heard that, I was like, wow, that's at least he doesn't have to say that. But he did. And so I'm like, all right. You know what I loved about that?
The guy. You just like the guy.
The ambiance of that scene. That was when I like took a step back and I was like, man, I love being in this world. I don't know. It was like darkly lit and it's like medieval times and they're wearing their robes and they're having a conversation around candlelight. And I was just like, I feel like I'm here. Like I feel like I'm there. Like when I watch Deadwood, I feel like I'm in Deadwood. When I was watching this, I was like, I feel like I'm there. That scene really struck me for the ambiance. Whoever these set designers are, and they're the best of the best.
Yeah, it's the whole. It's the art direction. It's the cinematography. It's all kind of coming together of just like the textures of it feels right. There's this like smoky atmosphere that's there. There's like the singular light that you would get because we're used to just lights and sconces everywhere. You're just omni-lit, and here it's like you have one direction or two directions, and things are just smoky because you're lit by candles, and so you feel that stuffiness of the room a little.
Right.
Another stuffy place is a boat. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say. I feel like so many. Look, I've never worked. I was like, Lou, you work. I've never worked on a film set ever. But it just seems like the impulse would be like, oh no, we got to get some artificial lighting in because it's too dark or something. And then you would kind of take it out.
That's the thing. If Sony was making this thing, they would totally do something like that. You know what I mean? They're like, let's do it cheap. Let's add the light.
Yeah.
We'll talk about this later.
I was trying to think of a good Madam Web quote, but I know not a single line, so I couldn't make a joke.
They're gonna kill me.
I'm a little bummed as a fan of this podcast. I'm a little bummed that Madame Web has been retired. I'm a little bummed because I know it's getting old, but now that it's gone, I miss it.
We're healing.
Okay.
I wanted to give it some time.
I always look every time.
Often.
Yeah, I know. Every time it's mentioned, I always look at Louis, and Louis goes. I can always see he wants to do it. And
I really want to. It's like, no, I got to contain myself. I can't annoy the audience by saying, Madame Web. Miguel's the one who thought of it. I just rode the wave hard. I'm just fanboying on Miguel.
It's the mustache. Madame.
Yeah, so whenever you bring it back, it will be welcome.
Okay,
you don't have to do it today. I'm just saying. We're waiting for it.
Another madam we find is in a boat. She is the old lover of Daemon, right? What's her name? The White Worm or something?
Yes.
Mysaria.
I
just really quick, least favorite character in the whole fucking
Okay,
series.
All right. You know why, Ed, by the way? She's very, very, very different than in the book. I think they're trying to make her a little more, human. In the book, she is like Damon's right hand, cruel. She is like the master. Varys. She is like, it's her idea. Like she's like, okay, let me go get blood. Let me go get cheese. Here's what we're gonna do. They're kind of taking that out by making her be more of like a victim, or it is. You know why that is cruel.
I did always wonder like what her purpose was, because in season 1 they introduce her and then like as a problem, and then she just kind of falls by the wayside.
Yeah, it's like they're afraid to let her just be evil.
But also I guess it also convolutes things. Maybe not, but my hunch would be that they heard her accent and were just like, nope.
Cut the lines.
Her acting is terrible, and watching her trying to, I don't even know like if it's like an accent she's putting on or what, but like Jesus fucking Christ.
It has to be an accent. I don't know if she's trying to copy Valentis.
And that's what I like. It feels like kind of like the guy doing the Stark accent earlier on. Her accent is just dreadful.
It's like a copy of a copy.
Yeah, I'm just like, what are you doing? Yeah. You're like having a malfunction with every word. Anyway, but
I think that's why you don't like it.
I yield my time. I don't like her. So.
Yeah, in the book, she is directing a lot of this stuff. It's her ideas for a lot of this stuff. So when you take that agency away from her, they're making her more look like a victim at the whims of powerful men, and it's like, okay, but in the book, she's very cruel and very direct. What she's doing is intentional. So she does a lot more in the books. Even thus far, she's done more, and she's been with Daemon the whole time. But
was she there during that scene when when Daemon and Rhaenyra were like, when Rhaenyra was really young and they were like kissing in the
I think one of her spies knew. Maybe. I mean, I just feel like she knows all.
No, did that not happen, or am I making that up?
I don't think she was there.
Like in the whole house. Yeah. I don't know if she was there, but I think like there were spies there. I don't
her
think
spies were there, but I don't think she was there.
How bold people were back then! Like even in like Roman times, they're just like, we're gonna do terror. Like we're going to be malicious. Like, everyone can see you, right? Like everyone's telling little secrets and gossips. Like there's no way that you can hide.
They're like, what are they going to do? Stab me to death?
Yeah.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
You pay them the right price. They will.
So even for just real quick, even for this, her nickname in the show is like White Worm. But to me, her nickname is Lady Misery. That's like how I see her. Her nickname in the book is
sounds like a pop star, Lady Misery.
It does. But I think they're like afraid to make her cruel or something. I don't know. But
I just don't.
To me, she's Lady Misery.
It's early.
Everywhere she goes, misery follows.
Early days.
Yeah. True.
Man, hard to balance all these characters and really make sure that they ring true. It's very difficult. So give them props where we can. This is the line where we get, you only blame me because your true enemies are out of reach. Great line.
So good.
And then, ladies and gentlemen, Rhaenyra comes back.
Oh, yes.
Everyone's like, what are we going to do? We're going to do this. We're going to do that.
Guys.
We're going to do this. And then she says the one line.
What'd she say, Ed?
What did she say, Ed?
She says, I want Aemon Targaryen.
She said it just like that, Ed.
I want Aemon Targaryen.
She put a hit out on her brother. Beard,
just like
that's wild.
What? I liked the half second right before that.
Brother.
I like the half second where Daemon walks up to her and he's like, "Do you know what you're gonna do?"
And he's like, "Did you take the time you need or something?" I can't remember what he said.
Did you find what you needed?
That little check in. You know what I mean? That he was like, we're doing this together.
Yeah.
And then she was like,
that gentle head touch. It's so endearing,
and he's got a big ass fucking forehead, so he can do a lot with that.
I feel like I've been seeing that a lot in the media. Like they've been doing it in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. They've been doing it in House of the Dragon. Furiosa. That's the other one I saw. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Everyone's doing the whole touch.
This is our thing.
Because Daemon would never like forehead touch. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a post-COVID kiss. Like,
that's right.
He's like, put your mask on.
So Aemon, I want Aemon Targaryen. It's gonna happen.
Someone pointed out something about that shot. I think it was a reactor or something I noticed who works on sets, and he goes, the shot is handheld camera, Then Rhaenyra walks around, and at some point they switch to a crane that goes over the table, and he was like, "How did they do that?" Like he was like blown away. I didn't even notice that, but he was like, he's like a camera guy, and he loved that shot.
I love that direction now that you said that, because it's like everyone doesn't know what she's going to say. You know, we're uncertain, we're unclear, and the camera movement is also mimicking that vibe. It's like,
love that.
It's just like, you know, when you're not sure, you're just kind of like not shaking, but it's just like there's a lot of like tense.
Yeah, tense.
And then when she's finally ready to speak, it's solid, it's clean, it's smooth, it's direct, and I dig that type of direction. So that's very very cool.
By the way, I've had people get on me. They're like, reactions are stupid. I'm like, sure, but I hear something I didn't think of. Yeah. And I always love hearing something I didn't think of. So reactors will do that. They'll say something I never thought of, like that. I never would have.
What was the YouTuber or person?
I know. I swear I will find it. You're right. You're absolutely right. That person deserves credit. I think
link down below.
Link down below to this person. It was one of these guys from Cinepals. It's like this guy from Cinepals. Oh shit. He was great. It was brilliant. Brilliant comment. I was like, hey, good comment. Good catch. Anyway.
What else happens here? I actually don't know what happens. Rhaenyra and I think something, I don't know what this is. Daemon knowledge for freedom. I don't know what that means. Rhaenyra and Jacaerys cry together. We do the fire. We do the fire lighting where you have both people lighting the candle. Alicent lights the candle, and then they do the funeral.
But yeah, I loved that. I just was like, I kept going, no, about Luke with the lighting of the candle. I kept going, say his name. You say his name. You say his name. And then she did. I said, thank you. Like, I kept saying that. You better say his name. I think
people on the internet were like,
did she say Velaryon or Targaryen?
She said, I don't remember. Oh, good catch, Ed. I don't know. Oh, wow. I don't remember. Serious.
Wait. What happens if...
She might have said Velaryon.
Well, Velaryon,
because he's not.
If she said Velaryon, you know, she would be kind of maybe just embracing or finally just like acknowledging that he was always, you know, that child, regardless of whether Rhaenyra cheated, and you know, that technically is strong. He didn't say Luke strong or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Right. Yeah, no.
But then, like acknowledging Targaryen, then like. That would be very interesting, right?
And Viserys was very clear they won't take the surname Targaryen until they became
king. Yeah, right. Exactly.
So they're always going to be Valyrians.
Valyrian, as long as they were, kids at the or whatever.
We have the lighting. It's done outside during sunset. Beautiful little time. As it mimics what's happening. You know, it's moving on to the nighttime when things are about to get dastardly. You know what I mean? The sun has set, and
Daemon has his hood on.
The hood is on. And then he arrives and he meets somebody who's like, "Hey, I hear that you hate the
I think that was blood. I think that's blood.
Okay.
He gets blood out.
We're gonna get to this whole discussion about blood and cheese in a second.
Okay.
I'm about to.
Okay. He's like, his name was Blood.
Well, his name.
Well, hold on. I've just learned that today that his name was Blood.
Yeah, they didn't say it once. I guess not once.
No,
like,
they didn't
once.
say once.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. That's No, I mean,
what?
I thought. Okay, let's talk about this now. They said I've heard you talk about it, and I've heard everybody talk about cheese and blood. Okay.
Yeah.
When I heard the name cheese and blood, I thought it was metaphorical. Whereas like the blood of the baby, like it's like this rat catcher and he's like cheesing, and then he kills this baby, and so there's blood. So this cheese has caused blood. But then I come to learn that there's a guy whose name is actually Blood. Jeez. And I'm like, I thought metaphorically the blood was from the child, not from an actual man.
Mr. Blood, and this is my friend.
Well, what's happening is they're using code names so that they can't communicate back and forth. Like, so they don't know who they are. These two people killed them. Who are they? Blood and cheese. We don't know who they are. And also, the communication back and forth where no one knows who they are. They're using code names like you would with an agent or something. They're just trying to keep the real name. No, I know.
Do you get it?
I get it. I'm just it's one of those things where like if you read the book, you would know that it's Cheese and Blood. If you're a watcher, you don't know it's called Cheese and Blood. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but absolutely. The fact that they never actually met, like, I felt like the Cheese and Blood thing only came up because of online. You know, you just like.
No, hang on a second.
I didn't leave that. I was just like,
him cheese at one point, right?
The tale of Cheese and Blood.
Cheese.
No, I didn't think that was like a son for a son. That's all I got from that whole thing. We didn't get to meet Mr. Cheese.
No, there was one
Mr.
point
Blood.
that I heard the name Cheese come up, and I was like,
"It's the Reservoir Dogs thing. They're using code names."
Right. Okay.
But I originally
it wasn't highlighted. It wasn't like an introduction.
Of course, because could you imagine someone being like, "Hi, my name is Mr. Cheese."
Yeah, and
I'm Mr. Pink.
Yeah. And I'm Blood.
No, that's fair. I didn't realize. This is why I want to get y'all's reaction, because I didn't even realize that or notice that. You're bringing that up, and I'm like, okay, I didn't even think of that. You're right. They didn't mention it. They just wanted you to know. Or you're right. Why didn't they? That's a good point.
It's like we reflect on the episode "Reigns of Castamere" as the Red Wedding.
And that's
just how stories are told, right? That's how we remember those things.
They don't say that in the show.
From here on, we're not. So that episode, sequence of events is called the Reigns of Castamere.
Right.
Oh, but we don't call it that. We call it the Red Wedding.
We refer to it as the Red Wedding.
And the only reason y'all call it the Red Wedding is because book readers have labeled it, and y'all adopted a label.
That's happened so many times.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So that's happening just again, Blood and Cheese. So it didn't happen in the show. Like Red Wedding wasn't said in the show, but you know of it that way.
This happened with the whole Team Black, Team Green thing, because there was never it was never said the Greens and the Blacks. It was just like, and
a
then
lot of it would be Hightowers versus Targaryens, or
right. A lot of this is just shortcut language that you're adopting because the book readers have created these titles. There's Red Wedding's not George's title. That's our title for it. And it was then passed down to people who watch the show. Yeah. But that's Blood and Cheese. I also thought of something. I'm going to derail it just for a second. I just thought when Aegon is meeting, I pointed out Alan of Whole Oaken Fist when he was meeting with the Sea Snake. Also, Hugh Hammer. I sent a text. I realized I probably shouldn't say anything, but he's another one that's coming. He was the blacksmith who was meeting with Aegon when Aegon was like, "Yes, we should give you sheeps." And Hugh said, "My name is Hugh, and I'm a blacksmith, and we need to make scorpions." That's Hugh Hammer. He will come back and back and back. So Alan and Hugh are two parts of the same
important characters.
Yeah, he'll be back. Hugh Hammer will be back.
Hugh Hammer definitely had a presence when he came on board, so it definitely feels like
these are casted actors to have lines in the future.
You said it so well. These are casted actors. Like they come in with presence. It's like we've been cast directly to have like a prevalence throughout the whole
set this up, right?
Those are not throwaway characters, but they're presented as throwaway characters, but they're not. They're actually coming back. And I just say that because I want you to keep an eye on it. This is not a spoiler. Just keep
perfect.
An eye on it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Another thing that people weren't paying attention to or seeing was everyone had this narrative. Well, a lot of the show watchers had the narrative of these morons got the wrong person.
Yes.
And there was this line where Aemond is like, look out for Daemon. No, wait, is that right?
Aemond, One Eye? Yeah.
No,
they're like,
bless you.
Sorry. Daemon wants look for Aemond. Okay. And he's like, he got silver hair and an eye patch. He's like, well, what if I can't find him?
And Daemon does this look up. He goes, yeah, he does like this.
I'll take any son.
Yeah. When it happened at the time, I went, "Oh, come on, that's too obvious. You're signaling." Like to me, I'm like, "No, don't be so literal. Be subtle." Then it turns out that was too subtle. People didn't pick up on it. I couldn't believe. Yeah. And again, this is not to say, "Oh, you dumbed up." No, I get it. It's a visual medium. Your mind is moving. You're seeing maybe a visual spectacle. It's hard to balance all those things when you're reading. It's all you see is that one sentence. All you see. So it's very easy to follow along with a book. It's very difficult when a show is being subtle. That's hard to follow. So I'm not trying to blame anyone. I don't want anyone to feel like I'm yelling at them. No. If I hadn't read it, there's no way I would have picked up on it. I'm not saying I'm better. It just. Yeah. because I read it, I knew it's a son for a son. Well, what if we can't find it? Well, that's the title of the episode. A son for a son. You find me any silver-haired boy with a cock.
Which I want to talk about here is where Daemon is like, okay, Rhaenyra hasn't said anything. She said one line and she says, I want Aemond, and then Targaryen. And then here Daemon goes kind of calling an audible and kind of what? Is he just purposely neglecting what Rhaenyra is saying? Does he not respect her? Is he taking it more into his own hands? Like, what is the consequences of that?
Yeah.
What, like, that is just troubling to me of their relationship where he's like, I told you what to fucking do. And you went behind my back. And you are causing more trouble because you want to create a war. You want to create drama. Right. That's not what I wanted. You are misinterpreting.
Absolutely. Rhaenyra could say, I wasn't trying to cause them pain. I was trying to fix a wrong. I was trying to create a justice moment, and you created an injustice moment.
Yes.
Yeah, she would absolutely yell at him. Whereas to Daemon, it's probably fine. It's probably like, who cares? It's son for son. Like, he probably didn't give a shit.
and this is actually, I just thought about this too. There's a moment when Otto and Alicent talk about violence has to be done. And she said, violence, was it not wanton or something?
Yes. Right.
It says, yes, violence, but not wanton. And so this is violent. Like, this wasn't really warranted. And it's just like, it was supposed to, justice was supposed to happen. And it comes to say, hey, Alicent and Rhaenyra are kind of in the same mindset here.
They are. This is why this is like Machiavellian or political problems, is even if I give an order, by the time it gets all the way down to the bottom, what I wanted didn't happen. Yeah. And now we can't communicate, and now we can't just deal with it, and now we can't meet and have a treaty. This is the difficulty of power. How the hell? Because I can't do it myself. I have to delegate, and he delegates, and he delegates. And
do you guys remember? Really high. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, please. I was just going to talk about delegation.
I just think that this really highlights Daemon as like, I don't know, I don't want to say an enemy, but just he really sticks some stuff out there in a place where he really shouldn't have. And this really fucks things up. And everyone is doing and trying to cope, but this is a really bad move by Daemon, and also a disrespect to Rhaenyra and an injustice. Like, he really puts himself out there on the wrong place.
I called it when I was here last, I called it an unforgivable sin, and I stand by that. I mean, killing a child, an innocent child, for money is an unforgivable sin. That's not something you can just apologize for. That's an infant. I mean, that's evil. It's pure evil. That's not something you just say.
Die. Blood has to die. They got to end. They got to catch them. I imagine we'll see a shot of them in episode 2 or 3 of those, just them hanging, like no explanation or something. You know what I mean? They're just like, they're already dead. They make their way through. They can't find the child. They find the child. We have this whole scene with. Ahead, Ed.
Knowing what we were getting into, like what they were looking for, but was anybody else, like Sarah and I, worried about the dog the whole time?
Listen, the internet's talked about the dog a lot, and I don't know if we wanted to give it space in this podcast, but yes,
we're giving everything else space. But yeah, I was concerned about the fucking dog. Okay,
I felt like I was
like, man, if they kill this dog, this show has gone too fucking far, bro.
Is it?
And that's like when
I kept trying to talk it up. I was like,
oh shit.
Well, that's why I kept talking it up. I was like, this is a horrible thing. This is crazy. What's coming is not okay. And I was like talking it up. And I think this happened with a lot of book readers. They were doing that to their show watchers, like, get ready, get ready.
Yeah.
And then a lot of book readers felt let down. They were like, well, this wasn't as epic as it is it's way worse in the book. But they were like, well, it's not epic like that. And so they felt let down. And then I was like, well, I told that to my 3 friends. I wonder if they feel like I was exaggerating, that it was some horrible thing. But because everyone wanted to talk about the dog, like everyone, I was like, okay, well then clearly the horrible thing did not register. Or I would love to get y'all's opinion on if this is one of the worst things that's ever happened in Game of Thrones, which is how I feel. I feel like it's just like evil. I mean, this is evil, man. Way worse than the Red Wedding. At least those guys had swords. Like at least those are adults.
Those are adults. Yeah, exactly.
Like that is like unacceptable.
You kicked the dog, and I'm like, well, that dog like had a meal. You know what I mean? Like he ate
like, it
after
sucks,
that.
but it's like the 1100s. Yeah, it's a dog.
He's
like
fine.
Yeah, it sucks, but
they were kind of gruesome with that kid violence. You know what I mean?
The sound,
even though it wasn't like the sound exactly, like it was a visual thing. It was something you sat with for a second, and you're just like, "This is terrible."
This is evil.
I think it's
different. Upset about the dog? No.
Yeah, I mean,
I want to talk about the dog.
I was just like in the moment, like watching that for the first time, Stephen, like us not knowing what was going to happen. Like I was like, oh fuck, they're going to run into Aemond and Kristen, and they're both going to kill them or whatever.
That's how they played that scene.
And that's the thing is like, if
that's how they read it.
It was like quite thrilling. You like just didn't know what was going to happen. You had the thunderstorm going on outside.
All the reactors go, oh, these two are about to die. Exactly. All the reactors. Exactly. None of them think something bad's going to happen. They all think they're about to die.
Nothing is going to go right.
Right.
And it doesn't burn a very different way. But so yeah, I just like it was funny leading up to that. That's where me and Sarah were at. But then to find out that like, oh, you know, of course people were like up in arms about the dog, but obviously in light of this awful, shitty fucking event, you know, whatever. It's just comical in that sense.
I wouldn't tell anyone that's worried about the dog not to be. It's just, you know.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah.
Kicking a dog versus blah, blah, blah.
Right. It's just, if anything, it was just a testament to the uneasiness of the whole situation. Like, you, again, just did not know what was going to happen. Like, at the very... I don't know. You hope that these guys just kind of get caught or whatever, or maybe they catch Aemond and bring him to Daemon. That would be great. But Daemon told them to kill him. Yeah,
or if they found a sleeping Aemond, they probably could have won if he was sleeping. So a lot of people, I've noticed this too. Here's two things I like to clear up that I've seen a lot of people talk about that were confused, and to me that was not confusing. One was the wildest one, which was like, why didn't they just kill Aegon? Like they're there and they had Aegon, like they see the king. Why not kill the king? That's impossible. You're not making it. Like, if you move towards the throne, you saw there are the guards.
The guards are so many people there.
So many people there. The guards are there. His entourage is in front of him. You're walking up to the Iron Throne, which is nothing but weapons. Like they can just throw you. Yeah. By the way, I know this is psycho, but every time I see the Iron Throne and the swords on the ground, I just want someone to grab someone and throw them onto it. Like every time, I'm like, just grab him and throw him. I want to see someone get impaled on it. But you can't walk up to him. That never would have worked. And the second thing being, they're like, where are all the guards? With Aegon. He's up drinking, and they showed you all the guards. So it's empty. But people were very confused about that. Now, I did another thing where I was like, it doesn't seem that confusing to me. All the guards are with the king. And the one who should be defending the queen is busy getting laid. Like, they show you all of the guards. And that's why it's empty. And you can't kill Aegon. If I move towards him, I'm going to get stopped. Hey, back up. Like, so I was so surprised those were criticisms. Was like, they showed you the guards. All the guards are in the throne room.
I also want, I know that the book readers were saying like, oh wow, it was a lot worse in the book compared to the thing. You've already brought it up in this podcast about how when you're reading a book, it's very singular. Like you see the words, you see the explanation. Your focus is on that. Like, of course they have to describe the moment. Of course they have to explain what's happening. And here they utilize this whole tool of just like, it's so terrible. We're going to just not watch it. We're just going to hear it and focus on Helena's face, who was just utterly shocked and just frozen. Yeah. And I think as a viewer, seeing her frozen face also affected me too, because I was like, wait a second, what's happening? Like, I think I feel a little confused because if I see somebody freak out and scream, I'm like, oh, something bad. It's like when someone says cheer, yell, you're like, oh, I'm going to cheer and yell too. It's like you reciprocate to the reactions that you see on camera or see on the screen. So when you see her just being still, you're like, wait a second, is some shit happening? And you hear this sound. It takes time for your brain to register. And I don't know if in the book, it's a lot more violent and a lot more direct and a lot more clear and obvious. Like, that's my question. As a book reader, was it more direct, the way that the child was killed?
It also happens faster. They make her, what happens, there's a child missing. So in the book, there's 3 kids. There's 2 boys and a girl. And they make her choose. They make her choose. Pick one. If you don't, we'll kill them all. So she has to choose, and she's panicking. And she chooses the young one because she knows he's too young, he won't remember. If he's a baby, he's lived a lot less. And then she looks at him, the little boy, and he goes, just remember this, your mother wants you dead. And then they kill the old one. They do the opposite. And they just one strike cut off the head of Jace. And then they take the head and go. And she screams, she's panicking, she's freaking out. And so the point was
that is very different. That's a very different experience between what we saw. She's panicking, she's freaking out. Here she's frozen. They're able to have this moment with this child. Listen, your mom decided to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Here they're just sawing at this child. That's a very why they didn't do 1-to-1 is a choice.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I agree. I don't know why. There's a lot of book readers, like especially like the subreddits for the book readers. They are like very angry. I'm not. I don't know. It didn't really bother me.
Miguel is shaking his head. Where are you shaking your head about?
I mean, I'm not gonna like get into the nitty gritty of like a child getting his head cut off.
Right.
Like, it's disgusting. It's violent.
That's not necessary to the plot. It's like, but they're saying, "Oh, it's not impactful. It's not as gruesome. It's not gruesome.
It's impactful.
It was right. It was horrifyingly gruesome. What do you mean? Yeah, that's why I'm just like, no. You got addicted to the book, the source material, and you think that any deviation is cool.
I understand that like maybe like you deep dive into it and you have like a more impactful on some sort of like deeper level, but I don't need a deeper level on this.
Right.
You know?
We don't need a deeper level. It was
maybe deep. I'm already in deep. And I'll just like take my mic off. Maybe it's the musicality of the whole situation. Like when you explain it for the book, it's like this whole song and dance of just like, I'm too drunk to even explain it. But
I see what you're saying. You're talking about a rhythm, a pacing, a whole build up, let down. Yeah, there's a artistic movement to it, whereas this one maybe is lacking that
conceptually
that
and technically and like what the subject is about. Of course, it's always all terrible. But when you compare it with two different children, you are also it's a different venue, it's a different landscape. It's all terrible, but it's just a different flavor. I'm having mint chocolate or I'm having chocolate. You know, they're both whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Miguel doesn't like the nuance of the situation. He just likes the grand brushstroke of it all.
Nuance.
He's like, hey, it's ice cream.
Yeah, exactly. It's ice cream. It doesn't matter. You put it in your mouth, but there's different flavors to an ice cream that you can, digest.
Flavor it. I hear it. I like it.
But it's fine.
I just, to me, it's just, to me, it is evil regardless of how it's done.
Right.
To me, it doesn't matter how it's done. And when D&D from Game of Thrones, when Game of Thrones changed from the book, I wasn't mad because they changed like events. I got mad when they changed characters, when they changed fundamental plot points. It's like, this will damage us down the line. It wasn't like, oh, she's wearing a different colored dress. I didn't care about little changes. I cared about the fact that they were changing, like Stannis. I'll never get over Stannis. That's a different guy. When you change him, you've ruined the structure of the book. You've ruined where we're going. With this, they're not ruining where we're going because it doesn't matter if there are 100 kids. It doesn't matter if there's 100 or one. That doesn't change the plot. What's happening next is just next. It's not necessary to the plot. And it's also not necessary to the character. It's kind of one of the reasons why I think they made her like so clearly like neurodivergent. People are also mad about that. They're like, why didn't she scream more? It's like, well, she's a neurodivergent. I've had some neurodivergent students, and this is how they react. Like, a horrifying scenario. They shut down where a neurotypical person will scream or be loud. They'll be very quiet. This was like perfectly accurate. But people are complaining about that. It's like, don't you understand that the whole point of this is not X, Y, and Z, but the death of a child? That is horrifying. That is evil. That is not acceptable. How it's done, fine. It's different. But that's not going to cause me to get mad and pick up a torch. It's not going to cause me to get upset. It's already horrible. So that's why it is to me. As a book reader, this doesn't bother me. I would have liked to see it, but also, it's not a true story. It's gossip. This story is just how historians remember it. We don't know that actually happened. That's just So it's like, why are you addicted to the line by line when this is not line by line? This whole point of this book is that it's how a historian would write it, interpretation. Yeah. So why are you getting so addicted to it being literal when it's not even literal to begin with? I don't know. That's me defending show watchers against book readers. Book readers are acting wrong, in my opinion. This is not why we criticize Game of Thrones. We criticize Game of Thrones when they attack.
You know what? I was talking shit earlier, but
thank you. Yeah,
okay, yeah, you're kind of on the same page. Okay, all right.
Yeah, it's just like as a book reader, I don't want to be snobbish and elitist and be like, well, it wasn't liable. Yeah, you have a British accent. You must be an elitist.
Stop.
Can I say I often think of whenever I see Otto, I think of Ed. I'm like, Ed would make a good Otto. Not because of his personality, but every time I'm like, yeah, Ed holds himself together that way. He's all calm and tight.
Yeah.
Oh, man,
walks into a room.
Not calm or. Yeah,
I've met you in person. You are.
Well,
you got that presence.
You know, he's kind of a cool character. I'll take that. So
I love him. He's my favorite. Yeah. That's no. Every time I'm like,
call me Damon though, and I'll.
What an episode, you guys!
Oh, we still have 20 minutes left, Miguel.
Let's go. Yeah, Miguel. You didn't watch the post-credit scene?
Yeah,
when Nick Fury showed up?
Yeah, exactly. I need you to the Avengers Initiative, Damon. You want to join her?
Miguel, are you drinking a beer?
What are you doing over there, Miguel? I feel like where have you been?
I got Uber Eats going right now.
Oh, I've been wondering what you've been doing this whole time.
I'm hungry. Okay,
Miguel, have you ever seen this beer before?
Yes.
I'm kidding. I saw it. Yeah, I know. I saw it.
I drink these.
Yeah, hell yeah. No, I just wanted to point that out. I noticed we were drinking the same beer.
No, what an episode, guys. We did it. I just thank you, Steven, for jumping on board for this House of the Dragon breakdown. We have how many episodes left of this show?
9.
Damn it, I love you. We got 9 episodes left.
See, that's a very Otto Hightower. Look at him go. Boom, hand in the game.
We got 9 episodes left. We'll see. We may continue doing these one-offs. It's obviously tough on all of us to keep doing it, but we might do check-ins in the middle of the season, and then we might do a check-in at the end of the season.
By the end, for sure, right?
Well, who knows? Maybe we won't even cover the end. We'll just
Steven.
Just if you need, this is what I meant by I just want to be a resource. If you're like, hey, I have a question, I'll answer the question.
We have all the questions.
Taking up time.
No, I loved going through each little scene and checking with you. I was like, did we miss anything?
Me too. That was a good idea.
Yeah.
That was a good idea. I like that.
So we released this episode, House of the Dragon, but tune in tomorrow. We're going to release another episode, Inside Out 2. We're going to have a review on that one. So you get 2 for 1 this week. But hey, until next week, I don't know what we're going to review, but until then, it's been me, Luis Gonzalez, and with me has been
Miguel Sanchez and Deadpool.
And Steven Escobar.
And until next time, later, Gators.
Bye.